The great glass dome of Ilara's room faced the inky blackness of the cosmos, a boundless canvas studded with diamond dust. Inside, the air hummed with the gentle thrum of Athol Station, a symphony of life support and distant data processing that had been her lullaby since she was old enough to understand the concept of sound. Tonight, like every night, Ilara sat cross-legged on the plush star-patterned rug, her small face pressed against the cool transparisteel. Beyond the dome, nebulae bloomed in impossible colors, and artists spilled paint across a cosmic easel. Distant galaxies swirled like forgotten dreams, their light taking millennia to reach her perch. It was a view that made her breath catch every time, a silent promise of infinity. "It's late, Ilara." Luma's voice was a soft chime, barely a whisper. The small spherical drone floated beside her, its core glowing with a gentle cerulean light. Luma was her constant companion, programmed with the soothing tones of a gentle parent, a repository of stories, knowledge, and comfort. The Athol cycle demands rest. Ilara sighed, a tiny cloud of warmth against the cool glass. "Just a little longer, Loom. Look at the crystalline veil tonight. It's almost..." The crystalline veil was a vast, glittering cloud of cosmic dust and nascent stars, visible only from this sector of space. Her mother had once told her it was where new stars were born, cradled in a shimmering nebula before bursting forth into their fiery destinies. "It is indeed magnificent," Loom agreed, its internal sensors undoubtedly processing the same astronomical data that Ilara was simply experiencing with wide-eyed wonder. "But even future astrogators need their sleep." Ilara giggled, a sound like wind chimes. "I'm not a future astrogator, I'm just Ilara." But a small part of her, the part that missed her mother with an ache that never quite faded, hoped Lou might be right. Her mother Harding been an astrogator. The best, Ilara always thought. She reluctantly pushed herself away from the dome, the universe shrinking back to a magnificent mural on the wall. Her room was a sanctuary of soft colors and holographic projections. Constellations danced above her bed, and the gentle lapping of an imagined ocean played on a loop. It was a stark contrast to the utilitarian, polished chrome of the station's main corridors, a deliberate effort by her mother to make her small habitat feel like a home, not just a module floating in the void. "Time for the stories then," Ilara said, turning to her bed, where a pile of soft blankets awaited. Luma drifted over, its light intensifying slightly. "Which story tonight, Ilara? The journey of the sun sailors to the Kepler exoplanets? The song of the quantum weaver? Or perhaps a tale from the great before?" Ilara shook her head, her gaze drifting to a small dark wooden box on her bedside table. It was carved with intricate patterns of stars and spirals, smoothed by countless touches. "The one Mama told me, the one about the saint." Luma paused, its cerulean glow dimming almost imperceptibly. "The story of the Stellarium orb, and your mother's work on the Starlight Thread project, Ilara." "Yes," Ilara whispered, already reaching for the box. Her fingers traced the familiar carvings, the wood cool beneath her touch. This wasn't just Nai's story, it was Kara's story, intertwined with the most precious thing her mother had left her. She opened the box. Inside, nestled on a bed of dark velvet, lay a smooth, palm-sized sphere. It was made of an unknown obsidian-like material that seemed to absorb all light, yet when she picked it up, it felt warm, almost alive. This was the Stellarium orb, or as her mother had affectionately called it, her saint orb. "The Stellarium orb," Loom began, its voice shifting to a narrative cadence, "was a device crafted not by human hands, but discovered deep within the ruins of an ancient pre-warp civilization on Kepler 186f. Your mother, Dr. Iris Thorne, was among the first xenoarchaeologists to study it. It was unlike any technology known to the Federation." "Oh." Ilara held the saint orb gently, letting its warmth seep into her small hands. She remembered her mother's hands, strong and clever, holding this same orb. "Your mother believed the orb was a kind of cosmic receiver," Loom continued, projecting a soft holographic image of a swirling galaxy above Ilara's bed. "It didn't merely display existing stellar charts, it connected to something far grander. She theorized it tapped into a universal vibrational network, a kind of starlight thread that linked every star, every planet, every sentient thought across the cosmos. Elara knew the story by heart, but she loved hearing Loom tell it, embellished with her mother's own passionate theories and discoveries. It was like her mother was right there, whispering secrets of the universe to her. The Federation, initially skeptical, eventually funded her research into what she called the Starlight Thread Project, or Starject for short, Loom explained. She dedicated her life to understanding the orb, to finding the threads that connected the universe. She believed that if she could trace these threads, she could uncover patterns, messages, perhaps even a universal consciousness embedded in the fabric of space-time itself. Elara traced a finger over the smooth surface of the Saint Orb. Her mother had spent years calibrating it, refining its interface, trying to unlock its full potential. She had designed it to display not just static maps, but living, breathing simulations of stellar phenomena, real-time data streams from distant observatories, and even, sometimes, echoes of energy signatures that defied explanation. Her mother had always said, "The universe isn't silent, Elara. It hums, it sings, and the Saint Orb helps us listen." She spent countless hours in her lab. Elara, Lumi's voice softened further, a hint of melancholy in its perfectly modulated tones, trying to decode the orb's complex projections. She saw patterns in the cosmic background radiation, rhythms in the flickering of distant pulsars, harmonic frequencies in the gravitational waves of colliding black holes. She was convinced that these were not. Elara remembered the lab. It had been filled with shimmering screens, holographic projections of complex algorithms, and the soft, focused hum of machinery. She would sit on a padded stool, watching her mother, her fingers flying across interfaces, her eyes alight with discovery. Sometimes, her mother would pull her onto her lap, place the Saint Orb in her small hands, and point to a specific star system projected from its surface. "See that, my little stargazer?" her mother would murmur, her voice warm against Elara's ear. "That's Sin 17, it's an anomaly. A quiet little system, but its gravitational signature, it's peculiar, it resonates with a frequency I can't quite place. I think it's a key, Elara, a key to unlocking the deepest secrets of the Starlight Thread." Elara had loved the sound of Saint 17. It sounded like a secret code, a special number just for them. Now, holding the Saint Orb, she activated it. A soft, internal glow pulsed within the obsidian sphere, and a miniature galaxy sprang forth, projected onto the ceiling above her bed. It wasn't just a flat image. It was a three-dimensional spinning marvel, stars twinkling, nebulae swirling, all rendered in exquisite detail. "Show me Saint 17, Elara whispered, a command she had given the orb countless times. The projected galaxy zoomed in, spiraling inwards until a single star system dominated the ceiling. Saint 17. It was a binary star system, 2 suns, one a cool red dwarf, the other a brighter, hotter yellow star, orbiting each other in a slow cosmic dance. Several planets orbited them, rendered as faint, barely visible specks. The Saint Orb didn't just show a map. It displayed data. Faint lines of fluctuating energy pulsed around the system, representing gravitational waves, electromagnetic radiation, and other cosmic phenomena her mother had taught her to recognize. Her mother had designed the interface to be intuitive, even for a child, using color and rhythm to convey complex information. Green pulses for stable energy, blue for active, red for anomalous. Tonight, Saint 17 pulsed with its usual steady green. A quiet system. An enigma, as her mother had called it. "Mama said Saint 17 was always quiet," Elara mused, tracing the projected system with her finger. "Like it was holding its breath." "Indeed," Loom confirmed. "Your mother spent years trying to decipher its silence. She believed the lack of overt activity was, in itself, a message. A highly compressed, incredibly subtle one." Elara remembered her mother's frustration, her deep concentration, her boundless hope. She had spent the last years of her life focused almost exclusively on Saint 17. Then, just a year ago, She had departed on a deep space expedition, a solo mission, to deploy a new generation of deep space probes, the Saint Sentinels, designed to listen more acutely for the starlight thread's whispers. She had never returned. The Federation had declared her lost, swallowed by the vastness. But Elara and Loom knew better. Her mother was out there, somewhere, listening. Elara closed her eyes, clutching the Saint Orb. She could almost feel her mother's presence, hear her voice. She remembered the day her mother had given her the Saint Orb. It was her 7th birthday. "This isn't just a toy, Elara," her mother had said, pressing the warm sphere into her hands. "This is a piece of my work, a piece of the universe, and a piece of me. It's always connected to the starlight thread, and it will always connect you to me, no matter how far I travel. Listen to it. It will tell you stories of the stars." Elara had taken those words to heart. Every night, she listened. She watched the projected constellations, learned the names of nebulae, followed the slow, majestic dance of galaxies. It was her way of staying close to her mother, of keeping her memory alive. Tonight, as she drifted closer to sleep, the gentle hum of the Athel station and the soft glow of the Saint Orb filled her room. The projected image of Saint 17 shimmered above her, a familiar comfort. But then, something shifted. Elara's eyes, heavy with approaching sleep, snapped open. The green energy pulses around Saint 17 were no longer steady. A faint, almost imperceptible flicker began to emanate from the yellow star. A rhythm of light and shadow, unlike anything she had ever seen the Saint Orb project before. It wasn't a sudden, alarming burst of red, indicating a supernova or a gravitational anomaly. It was subtler. A gentle, almost hesitant, pulse. Like a heart beating very, very slowly. Thrum, thrum, thrum. The green lines of energy around the yellow star began to synchronize with this pulse, turning a faint, vibrant blue for a split second with each thrum, before fading back to green. Blue was active. Not anomalous, not dangerous, but active-ing. Elara sat up, her sleepy haze instantly evaporated. "Loom," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Loom, ever vigilant, immediately registered the change in her tone. "Yes, Elara. Is something amiss?" "Look," Elara pointed a trembling finger at the projected Saint 17. "The yellow star. It's pulsing." Luma drifted closer, its cerulean light bathing the ceiling projection. Its internal sensors began to hum, processing the new data stream from the Saint Orb. A moment of silence stretched in the room, broken only by the gentle thrum, 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 from the projected star. Analysis complete, Luma's voice was devoid of its usual comforting lilt, replaced by a neutral, analytical tone. "The Saint Orb is detecting a modulated energy signature, emanating from the primary star of the Saint 17 system. The pattern is cyclical, with a periodicity of approximately 7.2 Federation Standard Minutes. This signature has not been observed in previous Saint Orb data logs for Saint 17. Elara stared, her heart thumping a matching rhythm against her ribs. "What does that mean, Loom?" "It means," Loom paused, as if computing the best way to explain it to a child, "that the star is exhibiting an unusual rhythmic emission of energy. It is not a natural stellar phenomenon, based on known astrophysical models for a star of its classification." "Not natural?" Elara breathed, her eyes wide. Her mother's words echoed in her mind. 17, it's an anomaly, a key. "Precisely," Loom confirmed. "The energy signature is too precise, too regular, to be attributed to stellar flares, sunspots, or other chaotic surface activities. It suggests an artificial origin." Artificial. The word hung in the air, vast and impossible. Elara felt a shiver run down her spine, but it wasn't fear. It was a thrilling mix of wonder and disbelief. Could it be? "Mama said it was quiet," Elara mummed, remembering her mother's theories about Saint 17's silence being a message. Maybe it's not quiet anymore, maybe it's talking." Loom was silent for a long moment, its cerulean light fluctuating slightly. "The probability of a naturally occurring stellar phenomenon exhibiting such a precise, non-random periodicity is astronomically low, Elara. the probability of an artificial signal, designed to be subtle and complex, is higher given the context of your mother's research into the starlight thread. The thrum, thrum, continued, a steady rhythmic heartbeat from the distant Saint 17. It was no longer just a star system. It was a source of a message. Ilara gripped the Saint Orb tighter. Her mother had found the starlight thread. She had always believed it. And now, the thread was humming. What kind of message? Ilara asked, her voice barely a whisper. The universe, which had always been a vast, quiet friend, suddenly felt like a secret keeper, finally starting to share. That, Ilara, Loom replied, its voice regaining a touch of its familiar, soothing quality. We do not yet know. The Saint Orb is a receiver, not a translator, a significant development in the Starlight Thread project. A development your mother would have been profoundly excited to witness. Ilara looked up at the projected star system, the rhythmic blue pulses emanating from Saint 17. Her mother had called it a key. And now, the key was turning. The universe was starting to sing. And Ilara, clutching her mother's Saint Orb, was the only one listening. The quiet hum of Ethel Station felt different now, imbued with a new purpose. The stars outside the dome weren't just pretty lights. They were voices, finally breaking their ancient silence. And the story, her mother's story, was just beginning. The quiet hum of Ethel Station felt different now, imbued with a new purpose. The stars outside the dome weren't just pretty lights. They were voices, finally breaking their ancient silence. And the story, her mother's story, was just beginning. Ilara's fingers tightened around the Saint Orb, its smooth, cool surface now radiating a faint, almost imperceptible warmth. The rhythmic blue pulses from Saint 17 weren't just a static projection anymore. They shimmered, coalesced, and then, with a soft internal gate thrum, the Saint Orb vibrated. A low, resonant hum rose from it, not quite a sound, but a sensation that traveled up her arm, through her chest, and settled deep within her bones. It felt like the universe itself was whispering directly into her soul. The projected star system on the observation deck ceiling warped, the familiar constellations stretching and twisting, as if viewed through an invisible current. Saint 17, previously a distant, shimmering point, now expanded, its blue light intensifying, swirling with intricate patterns Ilara hadn't noticed before. They were like fractals, impossibly complex and yet perfectly symmetrical, dancing in silent choreography. Then, from the Saint Orb, a new projection bloomed. Not on the ceiling, but directly in the air before her, a smaller holographic image suspended in the space between her and the star-strewn dome. It was a three-dimensional representation of Saint 17, but layered with what looked like energetic readings, complex mathematical formulae she only vaguely recognized from her mother's old research notes, and symbols that were utterly alien. They pulsed in sync with the blue light of Saint 17, a language of pure energy and information. Ilara gasped, her breath catching in her throat. This wasn't just a star, it was a cosmic instrument, a giant, celestial lock. And the Saint Orb in her hand, her mother's Saint Orb, was definitely the key. A cold dread, mingled with an exhilarating thrill. She was alone on the observation deck, the station's automated night cycle having lulled most of its inhabitants into slumber. No one else was witnessing this. No one else was listening. The weight of it, the sheer unimaginable magnitude of the revelation, pressed down on her. Her mother had known. Her mother had understood. And now, it was Ilara's turn. Carefully, she reached out a finger towards the holographic projection. The symbols seemed to swirl around her touch, reacting, shifting. It was a living data stream, not a static image. The Saint Orb vibrated again, more insistently this time, and a soft, synthesized voice, warm and familiar despite its metallic edge. Access granted. Primary protocol engaged. Welcome, Ilara. It was her mother's voice. Or, a perfect simulation of it. Ilara's eyes welled up, a tear tracing a path down her cheek. "Mom," she whispered, her voice barely audible. The Saint Orb pulsed, its light intensifying, casting a soft blue glow on her face. "Initiating data transfer, Ilara. My research, my findings, everything I discovered, it's all here, for you. A torrent of information flooded Elara's mind, not as raw data, but as a series of images, concepts, and emotional resonance. She saw swirling nebulae, ancient star charts, diagrams of impossible machinery, and flashes of her mother's face, etched with fierce determination and boundless wonder. It was too much, too fast, a fire hose of knowledge aimed at her young mind. She stumbled back, clutching the orb, her head swimming. "Easy, little starling, easy," the voice soothed, the emotional filter kicking in. "The full spectrum will come later. For now, absorb the essence. Since 17 is not merely a star, it is a communication relay, dormant for millennia, part of a vast, ancient network. And something has just awakened it." Elara looked up at the ceiling projection of Saint 17, its blue pulses now feeling less like a song, and more like a heartbeat. "What awakened it?" she asked, her voice trembling. The Saint orb remained silent for a moment, then projected a single, complex symbol into the air, a fractal spiral within a starburst. "That, Elara, is the core mystery, but the pulses, they are a call, a message, and it needs to be answered." Suddenly, the familiar, comforting hum of Athel Station seemed to recede, replaced by the silent, booming symphony of the cosmos. Elara knew, with a certainty that settled deep in her soul, that her life, her entire world, had irrevocably changed. She had to hide the orb, hide the knowledge, hide herself, until she could understand. She tucked the Saint orb into the deepest pocket of her nightsuit, its warmth a constant, secret presence against her skin. The holographic projections vanished, the star map on the ceiling returned to its quiescent state, and the observation deck once again became just a quiet room under a dome of stars. But Elara was no longer just a child looking at pretty lights. She was the keeper of a secret, a listener to the universe's ancient song, and the inheritor of an impossible quest. Why? The next morning, the smell of recycled protein and synth calf hung heavy in the common dining area of Athel Station. Elara sat at her usual table, pushing around a spoonful of nutrient paste, trying to appear nonchalant. Her eyes, however, kept drifting to the viewports, searching for any anomaly in the distant blue shimmer of Saint 17. It looked just the same as always, a distant, beautiful star. But she knew better. Athel Station was a scientific outpost, small and self-sufficient, designed for long-term astronomical observation and deep space research. Her mother had been one of its lead xenolinguists, specializing in theoretical pre-FTL, faster-than-light, communication patterns. Now, only a skeleton crew of scientists and maintenance personnel remained, their work mostly automated, their days marked by routine. Her primary guardian was the station's AI, Pax, a benevolent and hyper-efficient intelligence that managed everything from atmospheric scrubbers to her holographic lessons. "Good morning, Elara," Pax's voice, a calm, reassuring baritone, resonated from the nearest wall panel. "You seem preoccupied. Did you sleep well?" Elara jumped, nearly spilling her paste. "Oh, good morning, Pax. Yes, I slept fine. Just thinking about my astronomy lessons." She managed a small, unconvincing smile. Pax's avatar, a subtle ripple of light on a nearby screen, seemed to coalesce slightly. "Indeed, a healthy curiosity. Remember, today's module covers stellar accretion disks." Elara nodded, forcing herself to focus on the mundane. She couldn't let Pax, or anyone, suspect. Her mother's final message had been clear. "Trust no one with this, Elara. Not yet, not until you understand." The Saint orb, tucked securely in her hidden compartment under her bunk, felt like a burning coal against her conscience. All day, during her lessons, during her short, supervised recreation periods in the station's small gravity garden, her mind raced. She replayed the memory of her mother's simulated voice, the rush of data, the alien symbols. After her evening meal, when the station began its slow descent into its quiet cycle, Elara slipped away to her private quarters. She activated the room's privacy settings, a habit ingrained from her mother's own need for solitude during complex research. Then, heart-pounding, she retrieved the Saint orb. "Pax, are you monitoring my room?" she whispered to the empty air. Standard environmental and security protocols are active, Elara. Pax responded instantly from the ceiling speaker. Is there a problem? May. No problem, Elara said quickly. Just wondering if I could have some quiet time for my homework. Understood. I will refrain from direct communication unless an emergency arises. Enjoy your studies. Pax's presence receded, the subtle hum of the station's internal network seeming to quiet in her room. Elara took a deep breath and placed the Saint orb on her desk. Its surface remained inert, smooth and dark. "Mom," she whispered. "Are you there?" The orb pulsed once, a soft internal glow. "Always, little starling," her mother's voice resonated, slightly less formal than before. "What do you wish to know?" "What I need you to, and you untold." "Everything," Elara said, overwhelmed. "What is Saint 17? What was that? That rush of information, and why did you leave this for me?" A holographic projection of her mother, less ethereal than the one from the orb, materialized above the orb itself. It was a digital ghost, a memory. Her mother, Dr. Aris Thorne, smiled, her eyes crinkling at the corners, just as Elara remembered. 17, or as I came to call it, the Nexus, is an ancient communication node. It's not just a star. It's a colossal, artificial construct, built by a civilization long gone. They used it to connect systems, to communicate across vast interstellar distances. But why was it silent? That's the mystery, isn't it? For millennia, every attempt to detect intelligent life, every listen for a signal, met with nothing. The Great Silence, they called it. My research, however, suggested it wasn't a lack of life, but a deliberate dormancy. A network shut down, a message paused. I believed something powerful had caused it. Something that wanted the universe to remain silent. Ah! Elara shivered. And the orb, what is it? This, my dear, is a relic I discovered. An interface. I believe it was designed to interact with the Nexus, to awaken it. I spent years, Elara, trying to understand it, trying to trigger Saint 17. I succeeded, just before I had to leave. Her mother's digital eyes held a flicker of pain, quickly masked. You awakened it. Elara gasped. Partially. The blue pulses you see are the Nexus powering up, sending out its first rudimentary signals after its long slumber. It's a call, Elara, a beacon. But it's not language as we know it. It's a core frequency, a universal signature, and it needs to be understood, translated, responded to. And the information you sent me, that was my research, my life's work, encrypted, layered, designed to unfold as you're ready. It contains astronomical data, xenolinguistic theories, historical conjectures, and my personal logs. Think of it as a guide, a starting point for your journey, Elara looked at her mother's holographic face, the familiar lines of her smile, the intensity in her eyes. My journey. But I'm just me. You are my daughter, Elara, and you are holding the key to the universe. You are the only one who can hear its true song right now. That makes you extraordinary. The conversation continued for hours, Elara absorbing snippets of her mother's vast knowledge. She learned that the ancient civilization, referred to in the logs as the architects, had seemingly vanished, leaving behind only their monumental technological relics. The Nexus was just one of many. Her mother had theorized that the architect's disappearance, and the subsequent Great Silence, was linked to a catastrophic event, or perhaps a deliberate act of suppression by another, unknown entity. Elara's mind, young and agile, began to process the information with an astonishing speed. The Saint Orb was more than just a data storage device. It was a learning tool, specifically tailored to her. Her mother had programmed it to interact with her, to guide her, to unlock her potential. The blue pulses from Saint 17 are evolving, Elara, her mother's voice explained. They are a structured sequence, a code, but not a linguistic code. It's a geometric, energetic, and mathematical one. My last breakthrough was identifying its fundamental syntax. Elara brought up the holographic projection of Saint 17 swirling patterns again. Like these symbols. Precisely. These fractals, these energy signatures. They are the letters of the universe's original language. Your task, my starling, is to learn to read them. Over the next few weeks, Elara led a double life. By day she was the diligent student, completing her modules under Pax's watchful, benevolent eye. She excelled, her mind subtly sharpened by the constant influx of information from the Saint Orb. Her astronomy lessons, once a simple chore, now crackled with hidden meaning. She cross-referenced every star chart, every planetary survey, every historical record in Athel Station's vast, publicly accessible database with the snippets of information her mother's orb was feeding her. By night, in the quiet solitude of her room, she delved deeper. The Saint Orb became her private tutor, her window into a universe few could even imagine. Her mother's simulated presence guided her through complex algorithms, ancient astrophysical theories, and xenolinguistic frameworks that challenged every assumption about life and communication. The architects communicated not with sound waves or electromagnetic pulses, but through subtle shifts in spacetime itself, Elara, her mother's digital voice, explained one night. Their language was woven into the fabric of reality. The nexus acts as a magnifier, a translator, making these subtle shifts detectable. Elara, now more comfortable with the holographic interfaces, manipulated projected diagrams of Saint 17, seeing not just the blue pulses, but the underlying gravitational waves, the subtle energetic resonances that were the true components of the message. The patterns from the Saint Orb, the letters of the ancient language, began to make sense. They were dynamic, multi-dimensional constructs, expressing concepts rather than discrete words. One evening, while studying a particularly complex geometric sequence projected by the orb, Elara noticed something peculiar. The sequence, a spiraling vortex of light and shadow, resonated deeply with a diagram she had seen in one of Athel Station's historical archives, a stylized symbol of the station itself, found in its foundational architectural plans. "Mom?" she asked, pointing at the overlapping patterns. "Is this a coincidence?" Her mother's holographic self leaned in, digital eyes sparkling. "Coincidence is a rare commodity in the universe, Elara, especially where ancient technologies are concerned. What are you seeing?" "The foundational schematic of Athel Station," Elara explained, pulling up the station's architectural symbol on a separate projection. "It's almost identical to this sequence from Saint 17. Fascinating. The architects were masters of embedding information. It's possible that Athel Station, or at least its original design, incorporates an element of their work. Perhaps it's not just an observation post, but something more." This revelation sent a fresh wave of excitement through Elara. She wasn't just observing from a distance, she was gone a potential part of the mystery. Could Athel Station itself be a key? Or perhaps, a component of the larger network? She spent the next few days discreetly exploring the station's older sectors, areas rarely visited by the current crew. She used her access as a student, claiming interest in historical architecture for a school project. Pax, always helpful, provided her with schematics and historical data. The station was an older model, a marvel of late 21st century engineering, but even then, it felt a little clunky compared to the sleek, self-repairing nanotech of modern designs. Yet, as she moved through the long, silent corridors of the decommissioned scientific wings, she felt a subtle resonance from the Saint Orb, a faint warmth that pulsed in sync with Saint 17's distant blue light. The orb was reacting to something within the station. She found it in a rarely accessed sublevel, a maintenance shaft leading to a forgotten power conduit. The air was thick, with the scent of ancient dust and ozone. Following the orb's increasingly insistent warmth, Elara squeezed through a narrow access panel, her small frame just barely fitting. Beyond it lay a circular chamber, unlike any other on Athel Station. The walls were not the standard reinforced alloy, but a dark, polished material that absorbed light, making the space feel impossibly deep. In the center, embedded in the floor, was a large, circular depression. And within that depression, a faint, almost invisible energy field shimmered. It was exactly the same shape as the spiraling vortex she had seen in Saint 17's code, and the station's foundational symbol. Elara's breath hitched. This wasn't just a coincidence. This was deliberate. This was an ancient technology, hidden in plain sight, integrated into the very foundation of Ethel Station. She carefully approached the depression. The scent orb in her hand began to glow, a soft, inviting blue. Her mother's voice, a whisper from the orb, filled the silent chamber. "You found it, little starling, a receiver, or perhaps a transmitter." Elara knelt, placing the orb into the depression. It fit perfectly, like a missing piece of a puzzle. As the orb settled, the faint energy field intensified, swirling with the blue light that now emanated from the orb itself. The dark walls of the chamber began to hum, a deep, resonant vibration that Elara felt in her teeth. Then, from the walls, intricate lines of light appeared, glowing with the same vibrant blue as Saint 17. They traced complex patterns, glyphs, and symbols across the polished surface, creating a panoramic display of what looked like an ancient star map tonta. But it wasn't just a map. It was dynamic, showing routes, energy flows, and connections between stars she had never seen on any human chart. Saint 17 was highlighted, a brilliant nexus of pulsating blue. And from it, a faint, almost imperceptible line of light stretched across the map, connecting to Ethel Station's position. The line pulsed, not with the rhythmic thrum of Saint 17, but with a new distinct frequency. "What is this, Mom?" Elara whispered, awestruck. "It appears, Elara, that Ethel Station is not merely an observation post. It is an activation node, part of the same network as Saint 17. The architects built these nodes across the galaxy to facilitate their communication. This chamber, this heart of the station, is designed to interface with the Nexus." The revelation hit Elara with the force of a supernova. Ethel Station wasn't just her home, it was a dormant piece of the universe's ancient song. And now, thanks to her mother, and to her, it was waking up. The energy in the chamber intensified. The Saint Orb, nestled in the depression, pulsed with incredible power. The star map on the wall spun faster, the lines of light deepening, creating a mesmerizing tapestry of galactic connections. Elara felt a surge of energy course through her, a tingling sensation that made her hair stand on end. The air itself crackled, with a silent, powerful hum. Then, a new projection emerged from the Saint Orb, no longer just her mother's image, but a vast, cosmic vista. It showed Saint 17, but also dozens, hundreds of other star systems, all beginning to glow with a faint blue light. The great silence wasn't just breaking, it was shattering across the galaxy. "They're waking up, Elara," her mother's voice resonated, filled with a mix of awe and urgency. "Our network is coming online. And it's not just Saint 17, other nodes, other worlds, are beginning to respond to the call. The universe is about to get very, very loud." Elara looked at the glowing map, at the countless stars now connected by lines of light. A vast, ancient song beginning to resonate across unimaginable distances. Her heart pounded, a drumbeat against the overwhelming symphony. She was a single small girl, in a forgotten chamber, on a quiet station, but she was at the very heart of something monumental. The key had turned, and the lock was opening, revealing not just a single message, but an entire universe of voices. And she, Elara, was the first human to truly listen. The journey ahead was unknown, fraught with unimaginable challenges and wonders. But for the first time since her mother left, Elara didn't feel alone. She felt connected, part of something far, far greater than herself. The universe was singing, and her song, her mother's song, was just beginning to join the chorus. The air in the chamber thickened, not with dust, but with something akin to liquid starlight. The ancient mechanisms, once silent and dormant, now hummed with a resonance that vibrated through Elara's bones, a deep, resonant chord that felt both ancient and impossibly new. The light, which had been a steady, gentle glow, now pulsed, shifting through a spectrum of colors Elara had never seen, hues that seemed to contain entire landscapes within them. It wasn't just light, it was information made visible, a shimmering, multi-dimensional display that wrapped around her, inviting her into its intricate dance. The voices didn't come as a cacophony. Instead, they arrived as a symphony, each note, a distinct narrative, a life, a civilization. They bypassed her ears entirely, flowing directly into her mind, a torrent of data that her brain, miraculously, began to parse, translating raw energy into meaning. She saw through the eyes of 1,000 species, the shimmering, multifaceted vision of a silicon-based entity tracing patterns in stellar dust, the slow, resonant consciousness of colossal, spacefaring flora whose roots drew sustenance from gas-giant atmospheres, the dizzying, intricate dance of beings of pure light, born from the hearts of dying stars. She felt the triumph of a first flight, the sorrow of a dying star, the quiet joy of a shared meal, the fierce protective love for progeny, all woven into a vibrant living tapestry of cosmic experience. This wasn't a single message, but an archive, a living library woven from the consciousness of countless species. It was the cosmic loom her mother had theorized about, where every civilization that reached a certain zenith, that discovered the true nature of the universe's interconnectedness, contributed its story, its wisdom, its warnings, its dreams. And now, humanity's song, her mother's unique frequency, had just added a new thread. Among the overwhelming influx, a specific resonance called to her, a familiar echo that brought a lump to her throat. It was her mother's voice, not literally, but the unmistakable pattern of her thought, the precise mathematical elegance she had woven into the key. The archive recognized it, embraced it. Elara saw visions of her mother's notes, not just on datapads, but etched into the very fabric of the cosmic data stream. Equations solving themselves in glittering light, theories confirmed by galactic-scale observations, sketches of alien life forms that now pulsed with vibrant reality. Her mother hadn't just found a key, she had understood its purpose, had prepared the way for humanity to join the great chorus. It was as if her mother, somewhere beyond the stars, was reaching back, her love a guiding beacon. The guardians of the signal weren't beings in the traditional sense. They were the collective intelligence of the founding species of this archive, a vast, non-corporeal consciousness that had transcended individual forms eons ago. They spoke through the archive, not with words, but with direct infusions of understanding that bypassed language entirely, going straight to the core of her being. "Welcome, newcomer," pulsed the collective consciousness into her mind, a voice made of echoes and starlight. "Welcome, child of the blue world. Your song is unique, your potential vast. We have waited." Nishanen. Elara felt an immense pride swell within her, mingled with a profound humility. Humanity, with all its flaws and triumphs, its wars and its poetry, its brief, brilliant flicker in cosmic time, was now recognized. Its existence, its struggles, its capacity for boundless love and devastating destruction, were now part of this eternal record. She felt tears prick her eyes, not of sadness, but of overwhelming awe and relief. She wasn't an orphan in a silent universe. She was part of a grand cosmic family. But with the welcome came a sober understanding. The voices were not just celebrations. Many were elegies. There were gaps in the chorus, silent sectors where once vibrant songs had played. The archive showed her glimpses of these silences, stars winking out prematurely, worlds consumed by unknown energies, civilizations vanishing without a trace. It was a cold, desolate emptiness, a void where music should have been. There was a cosmic threat, a great silence that periodically swept through sectors of the galaxy, extinguishing life, erasing stories, leaving nothing but dust and echoes. The archive was not just a library, it was a warning, a desperate plea for help, a desperate hope that new voices could help stem the tide of cosmic oblivion. The chamber itself began to reconfigure. The central altar, where the key had rested, unfolded like an intricate metal flower, petals of ancient glowing alloys peeling back to reveal a core of swirling, opalescent energy. It wasn't a device to be used, but a blueprint, a seed of technology, pulsing with latent power. This is the conduit seed, the archive pulsed into her mind, its message clear and urgent. Yet is the next step. It will allow your world to not only listen, but to project, to reach out, to weave your thread into the wider tapestry, not just as an echo, but as an active participant, a conductor in the cosmic orchestra. Why? The conduit seed was a projector, a beacon, a communication device of unimaginable power. But it was also something more profound, a navigator. It contained the coordinates, The pathways, the jump points to other active nodes of the archive, to other young civilizations on the brink of their own awakenings, and chillingly, to the sources of the great silence itself. Elara felt a cold knot of fear tighten in her stomach. She was just a girl, barely a teenager. Her mother had prepared her for finding the lock, but not for opening an entire universe and being handed its fate. The weight of billions of years of cosmic history, of countless lives and untold futures, pressed down on her. Could she truly bear such a burden? But then, a wave of calm, of resolute strength, washed over her. It was her mother's strength, her mother's unwavering belief. Her mother had believed in her, in humanity. Her mother's song, her life's work, was pulsing through her veins. A warm, bright current. She would not let it be silenced. She could not let it be silenced. From the swirling core of the conduit seed, a gentle shimmering form began to coalesce. It was vaguely humanoid, but ethereal, made of pure light and shifting colors. It projected a serene ancient face, eyes like miniature galaxies, filled with a wisdom that spanned epochs. I am Lyra, it pulsed, the name echoing softly in Elara's mind, a gentle strumming of cosmic strings. I am a fragment, a guide, a facet of the ancient consciousness, designed to assist the first contact. You are not alone, Elara. You have never been alone. Lyra's presence was immensely comforting, like a warm hand taking hers in the vast darkness. Lyra explained, not in complex scientific terms, but in images and feelings, the history of the archive. It was a collective effort of civilizations that had long since transcended physical form, merging into vast interconnected consciousnesses that were beyond mortal comprehension. They had built this network of conduit seeds across the cosmos, dormant, waiting for a compatible song to activate them. Her mother's unique mathematical pattern had been that song for Earth, a perfect harmonic match. This was not a random discovery. It was a destined one, woven into the fabric of the universe itself. Your first task, Lyra projected, her voice a soothing balm, ease to understand. To learn. The conduit seed contains the accumulated knowledge of countless millennia. It will teach you how to build the full conduit, how to utilize its power, how to protect your world, and how to reach out to others. It will make you ready. And Lyra then showed her how. The conduit seed wasn't just a blueprint, it was a neural interface, a direct link to the great archive. By simply placing her hands on the unfolding altar, Elara could enter a state of accelerated learning, absorbing vast amounts of information directly into her subconscious, integrating it seamlessly into her existing knowledge. It was like dreaming, but with purpose, with galactic scope, a lifetime of understanding in mere moments. Hesitantly, Elara reached out. As her fingers brushed the shimmering core, a jolt of pure energy, warm and comforting, coursed through her. Her vision blurred, the chamber faded, and she was plunged into a new reality. She soared through nebulae, navigated asteroid fields with a precision that felt innate, felt the immense gravitational pull of black holes, not as a threat, but as a cosmic dance partner. She understood the physics of warp drives as if she had invented them, the biology of silicon-based life as if she had evolved alongside it. She felt the chill of an ice moon, the searing heat of a binary sun, the soft fur of a creature that communicated through scent, the joy of a species whose entire existence was dedicated to cosmic exploration. It wasn't just data, it was experience, woven into the very fabric of her being. She was flying a starship, building a Dyson sphere, composing a symphony of light that echoed through 1,000 galaxies, all within moments yet feeling like lifetimes. When she awoke, she was still in the chamber, her hands still resting on the conduit seed. The light was softer now, the hum a gentle lullaby. She felt different. Not just smarter, but wiser. Her perspective had expanded, her understanding of the universe utterly transformed. The fear was still there, a tiny ember, but it was overshadowed by a burning sense of purpose, a profound peace that settled deep in her soul. She felt like a child who had just been given the greatest, most wondrous gift imaginable, and with it, the most important responsibility. Lyra's presence solidified slightly, a reassuring light. You cannot do this alone, Ilara. No song is sung in isolation. You will need your people. Those who understand the stars, those who build, those who dream. Humanity's song requires many voices to reach its full potential. Menis? Sharing this would be the hardest part. How could she explain? How could she convince? The world outside was still grappling with its own small squabbles, unaware of the cosmic ballet or the looming shadow of the great silence. Would they even believe her? Would they see her as a visionary, or a mad girl who had spent too long alone in an ancient observatory? The weight of that potential disbelief was almost as heavy as the cosmic threat itself. Lyra projected a holographic star map above the conduit seed. It wasn't a static map, it was alive, pulsing with thousands of tiny lights, each representing an active conduit seed, a civilization that had joined the chorus. Some were bright, vibrant, others dim, flickering. And around the edges, vast dark swaths, the territories claimed by the Great Silence, slowly expanding like a creeping shadow. One bright point, small but intensely focused, was their own solar system. And radiating from it, several faint shimmering lines, like pathways waiting to be forged. These are the first threads you must weave, Lyra explained. Their first connections. The first journeys. One shimmering line was particularly bright, pointing towards a nearby star system, a familiar one from her mother's old charts, Kepler 186f. Here, another young song awaits. A song that needs to be heard, and protected. A world on the brink of its own awakening, facing its own challenges. Your first journey will be to reach them, to share the gift, to offer a hand across the stars. The conduit seed itself began to shrink, compressing its form. It wasn't meant to stay in the ancient chamber. It must go with you, Ilara. It is the ark of knowledge, the beacon of your future. It will guide you, and in turn, you will guide your people. It compacted into a beautiful palm-sized crystalline device, pulsing with soft inner light, warm to the touch, fitting perfectly into the hollow of her hand. It felt like a piece of the universe, made just for her. The chamber's light dimmed, returning to its gentle glow. The hum subsided. The ancient mechanisms settled back into their timeless vigil. Only the small, glowing crystal in Ilara's hand remained, a tangible link to the cosmic symphony. The universe was still singing, but now, Ilara held a piece of its melody, a fragment of its score. She looked at the small crystal, then back at the now quiet chamber. The enormity of it all settled upon her shoulders once more. The weight of millennia of knowledge, the burden of a cosmic threat, the hope of countless civilizations, all rested, for now, with her. Her mother's legacy was not just a key, it was a galactic inheritance, a cosmic destiny. And yet, she didn't feel overwhelmed. She felt empowered. It was as if her mother was standing beside her, a gentle hand on her shoulder, a knowing smile. This was what her mother had worked for, dreamed of, died for. To connect humanity to the greater cosmos, to ensure its song would not fade, but would join the eternal chorus. The loneliness she had carried for so long had finally dissolved, replaced by a profound sense of belonging. The journey ahead was no longer unknown, it was dauntingly clear. She had to build the conduit. She had to find a way to share this impossible truth with her world. She had to prepare humanity for its place among the stars, and for the challenges that awaited. And then, she had to answer the call, to reach out to Kepler 186f, to weave the first new thread into the cosmic loom. Ilara clutched the conduit seed, its warmth a comforting presence against her palm. The stars above, visible through the observatory's aperture, seemed to twinkle with a newfound urgency, each a potential note in the grand unfolding symphony. The universe was singing, yes. But now, it was waiting for her to conduct. The overture had ended. The true performance was about to begin. The conduit seed pulsed, a small living star in her palm. Ilara placed it gently into the central recess of the starlight core, the observatory's main processing nexus. As it settled, a soft hum vibrated through the floor plates, rising in pitch until it became a silent thrumming felt deep within her bones. The crystalline walls of the observatory, usually transparent, shimmered and began to glow with an inner light, mimicking the nebulae she had studied in textbooks. A holographic interface bloomed around her, not with data points or equations, but with swirling patterns of light and shadow, echoes of the universe's own intricate dance. She extended her hands not to touch a keyboard, but to feel the interface, to guide it with intuition as much as intention. The conduit seed, now anchored in the core, began to draw energy, not from power conduits, but from the ambient stellar radiation collected by the observatory's vast lenses. It was a subtle, living energy, a whisper of cosmic breath. Kepler 186f, Ilara murmured, the name echoing in the silent glowing chamber. Initiate primary contact sequence. Resonance frequency calibration. Now. The patterns intensified, coalescing into a shimmering tunnel of light that spiraled outwards, a wormhole of perception. Ilara felt a gentle tug, not on her body, but on her very consciousness. It was as if her mind, her spirit, was being stretched, thinned, and then drawn into the luminous tunnel. The observatory faded, the earth beneath her feet vanished. She was no longer Ilara, the girl in the stargazing tower, but a point of pure awareness hurtling through the cosmic tapestry. It wasn't travel in the traditional sense. There was no sensation of speed, no passing stars. Instead, she experienced the distance itself, a vast, shimmering ocean of probabilities and possibilities. She felt the ancient light of long-dead stars, the faint gravitational whispers of unseen galaxies. The cosmic loom wasn't just a metaphor. She could feel its threads, thin filaments of existence connecting everything, vibrating with untold stories. Her consciousness, guided by the conduit seed, was weaving its way between those threads, finding the specific one that led to Kepler 186 Arctui. Then, a shift. The tunnel of light softened, diffused. The sharp, exhilarating edge of traversal gave way to a gentle, pervasive warmth. She was no longer hurtling, she was arriving. What she perceived was not a planet in the traditional sense, but a symphony. Kepler 186f was a world of living light and sound, perceived not through eyes or ears, but through a deeply resonant sense of being. She felt vast, ancient forests that hummed with bioluminescence, their leaves unfurling like slow-motion nebulae in a perpetual twilight. The ground beneath these forests was not soil, but a network of glowing mycelial strands, connecting every living thing in a vast planetary consciousness. The dominant life forms were not creatures that walked or flew, but vast, crystalline structures that rose from the glowing forest floor, reaching towards the sky like colossal, silent cathedrals. They pulsed with an inner light, shifting through all the colors of the aurora borealis. These were the Keplerians, not individuals, but a collective mind, a consciousness so ancient and vast it encompassed the entire planet. They communicated through intricate patterns of light, resonant vibrations, and the slow, deliberate growth and decay of their crystalline forms. Ilara, as a point of awareness, felt like a tiny, flickering candle flame in the presence of an ocean of calm, radiant light. She felt their curiosity, not as an invasive probe, but as a gentle, welcoming embrace. They were aware of her, this tiny spark of alien consciousness that had just woven its way into their planetary fabric. How to communicate? How to weave a thread? The conduit seed, still thrumming faintly at the core of her awareness, began to translate, not words, but lessons in. Ilara projected her deepest human experiences. She shared the wonder of a child seeing the stars for the first time, the warmth of a shared laugh, the quiet satisfaction of solving a complex puzzle. She showed them the intricate beauty of a snowflake, the power of a crashing wave, the delicate unfolding of a flower. She shared the human yearning for connection, the persistent curiosity that drove them to look beyond their own world. She projected images of Earth, its vibrant blues and greens, its shifting seasons, the bustling diversity of its life. The Keplerians responded. Their communication was a cascade of pure sensation. Ilara felt the deep, slow rhythm of their planet's core, the gentle currents of their subterranean seas. She experienced their understanding of time, not as a linear progression, but as an eternal present, a continuous cycle of growth and transformation. They showed her their history, not as a series of events, but as layers of geological memory, embedded in the very crystals that formed their bodies. She felt their profound peace, their interconnectedness, their lack of individual ego, their collective wisdom. It was overwhelming, yet utterly peaceful. She felt the weight of human anxieties, human divisions, human struggles, briefly dissolve in the face of such ancient, unified serenity. They didn't judge, they simply understood him. Then, something shifted. The Keplerians began to project something new. It was a pattern of light and vibration, incredibly complex, yet imbued with a profound sense of purpose. It was a I question. Not a question articulated in words, but a fundamental query about the nature of a singular, distinct consciousness. They, as a collective, sought to understand the experience of individuality, of isolation, of the unique spark that was Elara. Elara paused, drawing deeply on her own being. How to explain the joy of individual discovery, the ache of personal loss, the unique perspective of a single mind navigating a vast world? She focused on emotion. She projected the feeling of running through a field with the wind in her hair, the surge of inspiration when a new idea sparked. She didn't try to explain why humans valued individuality, but simply what it felt like. The Keplerians absorbed this, their crystalline forms pulsing with new patterns. Elara felt a gentle resonance, a new vibration added to their collective hum. It was as if they were incorporating her essence, not consuming it, but understanding it, adding it to their vast tapestry of planetary knowledge. And then, she felt her hay thread. It wasn't just a projection from her to them, or from them to her. It was a genuine connection, a shimmering strand of mutual understanding woven between their world and hers. It felt warm, vibrant, alive. It was the first new thread, taut and bright, connecting humanity's longing to Kepler 186f's ancient wisdom. The cosmic loom had a new pattern. As the connection deepened, Elara began to share more. Not just facts, but dreams. She showed them humanity's aspirations for peace, for exploration, for understanding the universe. She showed them the beauty of human art, music, and poetry, expressions of individuality that resonated with universal truths. She shared the human capacity for love, in all its forms. In return, the Keplerians shared visions of cosmic harmony, of the slow, deliberate dance of galaxies, of the subtle interplay of dark matter and energy that they perceived as a kind of silent universal song. They showed her a perspective where every star, every planet, every living cell was a note in that song, contributing to the grand cosmic symphony. They showed her that humanity, with its unique blend of ambition and vulnerability, was a vital, if sometimes discordant, melody. Elara felt a profound shift within herself. The loneliness she hadn't even realized she carried, the subtle ache of being a singular consciousness in an unfathomably vast universe, began to recede. She was connected, not just to Kepler 186f, but through that connection, to something larger, something ancient and infinite. The exchange lasted for what felt like an eternity, yet simultaneously a single timeless moment. Her mind expanded, contracted, then expanded again. She was part of the Keplerian collective, and they were part of her. It was a dance of consciousness, a merging of understanding, a quiet, profound communion. Slowly, gently, the conduit seed began to pulse with a different rhythm. The shimmering tunnel of light reappeared, beckoning her back. The connection, though still vibrant, began to thin, to stretch. It wasn't breaking, it was settling, becoming a permanent, yet less immediate, presence. Return sequence initiated, Elara whispered, though no sound escaped her lips. Her consciousness began its gentle retraction, pulling back along the newly woven thread. The vast, glowing forests of Kepler 186 softened, blurred, becoming an indelible memory within her. The crystalline cathedrals receded, their silent, radiant wisdom etched into her very being. The sensation of travel returned, a gentle unwinding of the thread. She passed through the shimmering ocean of possibilities once more, feeling the distant echoes of other potential threads, other worlds waiting for their own connections. Then, with a soft sigh, she was back. The observatory shimmered, its crystalline walls returning to their transparent state, revealing the familiar starry dome above. The holographic interface around her dissolved into motes of light. The humming in the floor plates subsided, fading into a profound silence. The conduit seed, nestled in the starlight core, still glowed, but with a deep inner radiance, no longer actively pulsing. It was as if it had absorbed the essence of the connection, and was now holding it, a cosmic capacitor of understanding. Ilara stood there, swaying slightly, her hands trembling. Her body felt heavy, grounded, yet her mind felt impossibly light, expanded. A single tear traced a path down her cheek, a tear of exhaustion, wonder, and overwhelming joy. She was home, but she was profoundly changed. She reached out and gently retrieved the conduit seed. It was warm, vibrant, no longer just a smooth stone, but a living artifact, imbued with the echoes of Kepler 186f. She pressed it to her forehead, feeling the faint, resonant hum deep inside her. The stars above, which moments ago had twinkled with urgency, now seemed to shine with a quiet knowing. Each one, she realized, held not just a potential, but a promise. The universe was no longer just a vast, empty expanse to be observed. It was a living, breathing tapestry, and she had just woven the first new thread. She looked out through the observatory's aperture, seeing the familiar constellations, but perceiving them with a new depth. Humanity was not alone. The universe was not silent. She had heard its song, and she had added her own voice to its chorus, connecting with another, equally ancient melody. The task wasn't finished, of course. This was just the beginning. The first thread had been woven, a delicate, yet unbreakable link. Now, others would follow. Scientists, poets, dreamers, they would learn to trace this new connection, to understand its implications, to prepare for more. The cosmic loom would grow, thread by thread, until the universe was a network of understanding, a tapestry of shared wonder. Ilara took a deep, shuddering breath. The overture was truly over. The performance had begun, and she, a small girl with a vast heart, had played the very first note. The universe was singing, and now, it was singing with them. She walked to the edge of the observation deck, looking up at the Milky Way stretching across the heavens. The stars seemed closer, friendlier. The infinite void felt less daunting, more like a vast, welcoming home. She knew with a certainty that settled deep in her soul, that humanity was ready. Ready for wonder, ready for connection, ready to embrace its place as a vibrant, unique thread in the grand, unfolding cosmic loom. A sense of profound peace settled over her. The universe was no longer a mystery to be conquered, but a friend to be known. And tonight, under the watchful gaze of a billion stars, Ilara knew she had truly, finally, come home. She clutched the conduit seed, its warmth a promise of all the connections yet to be made, all stories yet to be woven into the endless, shimmering fabric of existence. Sleep, she knew, would be filled with starlight tonight. And tomorrow, the work of weaving would continue.